So as you've been witnessing, the G4S's directors and senior managers appeared in Parliament today to explain Thabo Bester's elaborate criminal escape from the Mangaung Correctional Centre. They were defensive and defiant that they had a good track record over the past 22 years and that they have had the contract to manage the private prison, denying that they had lost control. They also expressed pride, only 2 escapes over the term, with one of them being Bester. While taking tough questions from the committee today, they tried to explain the circumstances around Bester's escape, saying they'd also axed 3 officials implicated in the event. Adv Glynnis Breytenbach is on the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services. She was there, you saw her, she joins us now. Advocate, good evening to you and welcome. I'm going to get to some of the highlights, and there were so many. I mean, how does one even choose? But it seems as if G4S came to the committee today grotesquely underprepared.
Good evening and good evening to everybody. They did come, in my view, grotesquely underprepared, as you put it, for what lay in store. They should have realised that this is a serious matter. The Portfolio Committee on Justice has summoned them, because they're required to be summoned, to an inquiry into a matter that has gripped the public. We can't have a serial rapist and murderer running around, living the good life, while his victims have not even been informed that he's no longer in prison. So why they thought this was anything but a very, very serious inquiry, I don't know. But they came there with in my view, rather flimsy report that was completely and utterly exculpatory, and really just highlighted their good points, and told us what a wonderful job they're doing, and how they'd met all the administrative requirements in cooperating with this investigation, which is so inadequate that one's lost for words.
And we'll get back to G4S in a moment, but one of the starkest things to come out today is the fact that DCS, the Judicial Inspectorate of Correctional Services, knew in October already that Bester had escaped 5 months earlier. And in fact, there was even a warning in August. They were told by the SAPS, and the Judicial Inspectorate for Correctional Services found that he had likely escaped. So they've dragged their heels, losing months which they could have spent on finding this criminal and his accomplices. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's something that we're going to delve into tomorrow, and make no mistake, we're going to delve. It's quite clear now that the Judicial Inspectorate knew early on, or suspected early on, that he had escaped, that he in fact wasn't the person who had died in the cell, and they alerted various authorities, but certainly they alerted the Department of Correctional Services. They alerted G4S, and they alerted the Minister of Justice. They sent him a letter. And so since at least October, all of these people have known that Bester didn't die in that cell and that he had in fact escaped. And nobody said a word. Nobody informed the Justice Portfolio Committee, despite coming there many times to report to us. They didn't inform us of this problem. They didn't inform the public, and worst of all, they didn't inform his victims. Those women who are rape survivors, who had to go through the most horrendous traumatic experience of testifying in court about a rape, and they weren't informed that their rapist was out, and that they were trying to recover from this ordeal, which is not really possible to do. And nobody bothered to inform them that A, they may not be safe, and B, they may run into him at their local checkers.
If there's time, I'd like to explore whether there is, any kind of civil action they can take. But in terms of action, the public wants to see heads roll over this. This is just unbelievable, and it just beggars belief that it could happen on this scale. What is the most that you, as a portfolio committee, can do about this?
Well, we've spent the day today interrogating some of the facts surrounding this issue, and tomorrow we'll deal with the rest, hopefully. It was a long day. We sat until 6. I presume we'll do the same tomorrow, but I don't believe that we'll get to the bottom of it today. There's just too much. This is a production on a scale that is Hollywood movie material, and we won't get to the true facts in these 2 days. So. Yeah. The committee will have to sit tomorrow evening and then take a decision on what we think the way forward is, and possibly will recommend that, you know, a proper inquiry, a parliamentary inquiry should be held, where we can then call all the other role players, all the other witnesses who have something to say about this and get to the bottom of it, because clearly, this is large-scale corruption. Many palms had to be greased to make this happen. It required the cooperation of many role players, and certainly none of the reports that I've seen to date have gotten to the bottom of it. So it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that this happened on the watch of the people who are present there, and it's absolutely unacceptable that the public was kept in the dark.
I want to address two issues with you, but just on the issue of shareholding, you say you are going to dig deeper. It's an issue that Ruth Hopkins, who's done a documentary, written a book about this, a litany of complaints around conduct at the prison and the prison authorities, but also asking us to dig deeper and look closer around the shareholding issue. Is that an issue you're going to get to?
Well, certainly I raised it briefly today, but we'll certainly delve into it more thoroughly tomorrow, yes.
Okay, so the other big issue, which I heard you use the word dodgy, was around the CCTV footage. And, you know, G4S builds itself as this high-tech company with the most sophisticated technology. And one would assume that if you're monitoring a prison of this magnitude, you'd have even remote streaming, you know, a separate server somewhere else. And if there is an interruption, there would be some kind of signal or an alarm system. But for many hours during the course of this crime taking place, this deception taking place, you know, suddenly things go down and there wasn't even an immediate red flag.
No, it's absolutely astonishing. You know, the company who's responsible for that that high-tech surveillance did come today, and you know, the two people they sent don't have first-hand knowledge. They were sent like lambs to the slaughter, in my view. They can't really answer the questions. Hopefully they'll send somebody tomorrow who can. But the system was unplugged. You know, somebody pulled the plug out of the wall hours before the escape took place, and it was plugged back in hours afterwards. So, you know, and we know who that person is, and they've known all along who that person is. So action has now been taken in 2023, lie detector tests and people handing themselves over to the police. It's nonsense. It's a year later. Absolutely, in the interim, absolutely nothing was done to investigate this absolute travesty. It's appalling.
Well, we're impaled on proceedings in Parliament, especially when you consider this point, which a number of parliamentarians raised. Giving Thabo Bester a laptop is almost akin to giving a person who killed someone with a gun in prison. This was his method of deception, abuse, and you know, his code of how he was a predator. And yet he was handed this in the pursuit of his graphic design education. Beggars belief.
It in fact beggars belief. And not only did they hand him a laptop to pursue this rather flimsy graphic design course, but they're happy to admit that nobody inspects the laptop, nobody interrogates the software on the laptop. It comes in a box, you have a look, it's a laptop, and off it goes. So, you know, it's completely and utterly a shoddy operation, and it's heads must roll.
And we will certainly see how things unfold. 9 a.m. tomorrow is when we believe proceedings will resume. Thank you very much for talking to us, Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach, who is on the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee for Justice and Correctional Services.